We live in an era that loves to promise control. The modern self-help mantra tells us that if you truly want something and work hard enough for it, you will succeed. But reality is rarely that cooperative. Sudden disaster, absolute failure, and total loss can shatter those expectations at any moment. The ancient Greeks understood this lack of control intimately. By the early 3rd century BCE, the massive empire built by Alexander the Great had collapsed. People were living in a fractured, chaotic vacuum, desperately searching for inner stability in a world that was rapidly changing around them. Into that vacuum stepped Zeno of Citium. Zeno was a wealthy merchant who had just lost everything he owned, his cargo, his fortune, his entire livelihood, to a violent shipwreck. He found himself standing in Athens completely powerless, stripped of everything the outside world could take away. Looking for answers, Zeno began studying philosophy. Eventually, he started teaching his own ideas in a public colonnade called the Stoa Poikile, or the Painted Porch. This location gave his followers their name, the Stoics. Zeno's realization was highly practical. Since we are powerless to command the chaos of the outside world, our only actual path to peace is controlling the one thing we can: our own thoughts, judgments, and the negative emotions that arise from them. To achieve that peace, Stoicism relies on a ruthless mental filter. It asks us to take all of our pains, frustrations, and sufferings and divide them into two distinct categories: the avoidable and the unavoidable. Let's look at the unavoidable. The Stoics were materialists who observed that the universe follows a massive rational order. They didn't view destiny as a magical decree, but rather as an endless physical sequence. In this system, every single event is triggered by a long, inescapable chain of cause and effect. Because this physical sequence is locked in motion, true chance or randomness is an illusion. Things only feel random to us because of our vantage point. We simply do not have the cognitive capacity to zoom out and witness the billions of overlapping variables causing a specific moment to occur. We just see the single piece falling right in front of us. Therefore, when an unavoidable event hits us, whether it's death or simply the circumstances of our birth, fighting it is irrational. The sequence is already in motion. Radical acceptance and surrender is the only logical response. You might assume this strict belief in fate would turn the Stoics into passive fatalists, people who simply give up and withdraw from life. But the historical record shows the opposite. This brings us to the second category, the avoidable. The Stoics argued that humans are deeply rational social creatures. When a problem falls within our power to change, we have a strict moral duty to apply maximum effort to reduce that suffering for ourselves and our society. The most famous Stoics lived this out in high-stakes environments. Seneca was a deeply involved politician, and Marcus Aurelius led the entire Roman Empire through plague and war for 2 decades. So how do you actually train the human brain to consistently sort the avoidable from the unavoidable? The Stoics developed specific psychological exercises to maintain this perspective. One method is negative visualization. By taking a few moments to vividly imagine the sudden loss of your sight, your health, or your home, you forcefully reset your baseline. When you open your eyes and return to reality, it triggers an immediate sense of gratitude for the life you still inhabit. Another technique anchors the mind entirely in the present. Try imagining that you are doing a routine, mundane task for the very last time in your life. The experience instantly becomes vivid, meaningful, and sharply focused. These exercises don't make you pessimistic. By forcing you to stop bleeding energy into things you cannot control, they ensure you are fully armed and ready to fight fiercely where your actions actually matter. A philosophy is useless if it only works in theory. To see if Stoicism actually works, we can look at one of the most extreme historical stress tests on record. We return to Seneca. For years, he held an incredibly dangerous position as the forced tutor to a young, volatile Roman heir named Nero. As he grew into power, Nero evolved into a tyrant. Eventually, the emperor turned on his former teacher and sent soldiers to deliver a brutal order. Seneca was to commit suicide immediately. Faced with immediate execution, Seneca did not panic, beg, or complain. Through the lens of his lifelong practice, he recognized the soldiers at his door not as an injustice to fight, but as the final, unavoidable domino falling in his life. He gathered his friends, offered them a few final words of comfort, and dignifiedly accepted his fate. He died with remarkable composure, proving the absolute resilience of his own teachings. Stoicism requires a difficult, daily effort to build a specific type of clarity, the wisdom to distinguish the reality we can change from the reality we must accept. Thanks for staying until the end. It truly means a lot. If this video spoke to you, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss what's ahead. This is a space for philosophy, psychology, and science to expand the way you see life. Until next time, may wisdom walk beside you.